Well, hello and welcome to the latest episode of Between the Sundays here from Generations Church. And this is just a conversation that we try to have to extend our Sundays into Mondays and beyond. And so I'm thankful that you're listening or you're watching today, wherever you may be. Today, I am joined by Pastor Madeline. She is
Hey,
our
good morning.
gKids pastor. And Garrett Snyder, you have like I think the most appearances on Between the Sundays. We're gonna get you like
I
a
know.
gold watch or a
Yeah, what's
coffee
that
mug
from
Need
or
a
something.
SNL?
t-shirt.
The
Yeah.
the jacket or whatever you get.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Garrett's our communications director, and he also oversees our local and global missions, which we'll talk about in just a few minutes. But we're thankful that you're watching again or listening today. There's been a lot of things that have happened
Yeah.
over the last few weeks. We've talked about some
Yeah.
of them. I know last week, Pastor Aaron kind of led the discussion and conversation about our marriage conference and kind of the conclusion of the previous series. But we've had a lot of things even just in the last few days, this past weekend. I'll start with this. We had our March Madness event on Saturday night.
Yep.
We had a great night. But
Mhm.
Garrett, I know you were there. What was some of your favorite components, favorite parts of that event?
Yeah, it was great. I would say one of my favorite things was kind of before the event even happened. We had a few guys that met up here at 8 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah,
30 degrees outside,
yeah,
to smoke meat, some pork and chicken for the event. So they just pulled up some lawn chairs and had some sodas in the cooler and
yeah,
the chicken brining and all that
yeah,
kind of good stuff. And for 10 hours, they just sat out here and barbecued. So
yeah,
a few of the staff throughout the day just kind of came out and hung out with them and spent some time with them. And it was a good time. And then the event itself, the attendance was
yeah,
great. This is the first men's event we've done in a little bit, so just to see them show up, the diversity in the kind of the range of ages that we
yeah.
had, so many
Right.
students and just kind of across the board. So it was great to see the attendance. And then Bruce Deal from City of Refuge and Most came and spoke to us, and it's just some really powerful statistics and the work that they're doing, and I think really just impacted the guys that were there and
Yeah.
left them just kind of with a heart of just kind of sympathy and missions in a
Yeah.
sense. Yeah, I think it was great.
Yeah, Bruce
Mhm.
talked about the story of City of Refuge. If you're not familiar with that, I encourage you to go check out their website and look at all they've done. But over the last 26 years or so, his family, they moved their entire life there
Yeah,
26 years ago and
Yeah.
started pastoring a church, and then that spread into an outreach ministry there in the city of Atlanta, and one of the most difficult parts, maybe the
yeah,
most difficult
yeah,
part of the city of Atlanta. And that's just continued to grow, and the Lord has continued to open up avenues of ministry. And as I got up to close the night, I was kind of reflecting back on one of the statements he made, but it just started with one faithful yes.
hmm,
That there was one young lady that came into the church and she wanted, "Can you help me?"
yeah,
And he said, "We really couldn't. Like what she needed, we couldn't provide, but we just said yes." And then that has turned into all that the Lord has done in the last 26
Yeah.
years. And now House of Cherith, where they have a housing facility, now several in multiple places for the girls and women that have been
yeah,
rescued out of the trafficking industry, and now most is men opposing sex trafficking, and really the Lord's hand is on that ministry because they've been able to connect to celebrities and businesses and really acquire a lot of funding for this effort to try to help not just raise awareness. I think most people are aware, but maybe raise more awareness about actually how close to home it is.
yeah,
He
sure.
used some
Mhm.
statistics, but even told some stories just about some of our local community here in the North Atlanta area. And it was impactful for sure, but it was also challenging. And I think from the youngest to the oldest that were there, like we walked away really
Yeah,
challenged
Yeah.
about that. And we've heard some even stories since then. And so I'm thankful for that. But he did a
he
fantastic
did.
job. But it was a great night. I had a lot of fun just connecting with some of the guys of our church, many of them new guys
Mhm.
that I had not met, not really talked to that much, but they came and were a part of it. We did axe throwing. I'm not great at that.
Yeah,
I
me
gotta be
either. That's
honest.
not my skill
I
set.
I
am
did
not great at
bad.
that. Yeah, I'm good at several things. That's not one of them. But we, had basketball games on televisions and putt putt and ping pong and all that kind of stuff. But it
Yeah,
was it was a lot of fun. I was really thankful for that. And then we came into Sunday morning. We started a brand new series called Journey to the Cross. And this is really an effort for a few weeks for us to prepare our hearts as a church
Mhm.
to prepare for
mhm.
Easter. And so, Pastor Madeline, maybe just this looking back just to Sunday of this week, kind of your thoughts about Journey to the Cross and even this journey we're going to take towards Easter.
Yeah. I have felt like personally, especially like for gKids in particular, but just that God is like doing something leading up to Easter and really moving in like
Yeah,
hearts and lives. And so I just think journeying with Jesus and experiencing like the emotions that he felt, the things that he calls us to, despite the ways that we feel like I just think that it's really setting us up for something really, really exciting for Easter Day. So
That's
I'm
awesome.
excited.
That's awesome. Garrett, for you, what about Sunday?
It was good. I think you mentioned it on your kind of recap social media post for the day, but just the response we got in the room. You know, we talked about specifically Jesus like healing people, and the just the hands that were raised just kind of in that moment towards the end of the service, people just kind of I'm asking for healing, I
Yeah.
need it in my life, or my spouse needs it, or my son or daughter needs it. Was just really overwhelming to
Yeah.
see. And I think it really just kind of proved that our church, while it's growing and attendance is great, and groups are full, and everything feels right, we're also in a moment where like our church just feels like it's ready for Easter season,
Yeah.
in
That's
that
good.
kind of story and that journey that we're taking over the next few weeks. So
That's good. We talked about in the sermon itself. We just talked about the idea that as if we're journeying towards the cross, we're
yeah,
journeying towards Easter together. You know, Christ journeyed towards the
yeah,
cross really from the moment he landed here on the earth. Like he
Yeah.
was born of a virgin. But we went to Luke chapter 12 where he said, like, should I ask the Father to get me out of this? He said, no, like this is what I came for. Like
yeah,
this was my
Yeah.
moment. And so he always knew the cross was before him. Even in John chapter 3, when he's talking to Nicodemus, like he's talking about the Son of Man being lifted up, and this idea that the cross was always before him. So what did he do as he journeyed towards the cross? He loved people, he healed people,
mhm,
he saved people.
yeah,
There's other things that he did, other great conversations, amazing things that we see from his life and his ministry, but he loved people. They were never an interruption to his ministry.
yeah,
They were
Yeah.
always his ministry. He healed people, and we don't know how many people he healed. I think it's in Luke chapter 4 that we talked about. It says that like they brought all their sick,
mhm,
and he just laid hands on them and healed all of them. So we don't know how many
Yeah.
that was, 10, 2,500.
yeah,
But he healed so many people of so many different things, and we talked about the different things that he used, or the different types of things that he healed people from. But we also talked about like he saved people. Like he
Yeah.
would say to them something that seemed so outrageous to the religious people of that time. He would say, "Hey, your sins are forgiven."
yeah,
And up to that point, I mean, Corey and I talked about it even last night. Up to that point, for your sins to be forgiven, I mean, you had to come and bring your own sacrifice and offer that in the temple, and like there were so many steps to do
mhm,
that, and the law was so specific. And Jesus was just saying, "Hey,
yeah,
no, no, no,
just
I
in a
have the
moment.
power to
Yeah,
do this. If you have faith in who I am, that I am who I say that I am, no one gets to the Father except through me. Like, hey, your
Yeah.
sins are forgiven."
yeah,
These first kind of faith in Jesus kind of moments, but just a thought like that's how he used his time as he journeyed to the cross. So how do we use our time?
yeah,
Yeah.
We can't heal people, we can't save people, but we can point them to the one who can. But we can love people.
yeah,
Yeah.
And I just think for all of us as we head towards Easter, like don't lose that thought, that idea that like we just can love people wherever they are and whatever condition they find themselves in. It was personally challenging
yeah,
for
Yeah.
me.
that's great.
I think too, like the fact that like Jesus' love and how like I don't know how powerful it is. It is powerful from the youngest to the oldest.
Yeah,
And a couple weeks ago, we talked. We've been doing our own like journey to the cross upstairs. But we read the story of Zacchaeus um, and even just talking about how Jesus loved Zacchaeus. Like
yeah,
he saw Zacchaeus in a crowd where he was walking through. Tons of people,
yeah.
lots of noises. Zacchaeus, tiny little man hidden in a tree, and Jesus looks at him, knows his name, calls him by name,
It's good.
and everyone in the crowd knows this man. They know how like horrible of a person that he is, the things that he's done.
Yeah,
But Jesus, like, like the power of the fact that he saw Zacchaeus and he loved him and he called him by name and he said, I want to come to your house. Like,
it's good.
that's powerful from the youngest to the oldest. And Jesus went and he said, salvation has come to your house today, like
Yeah,
because of my love, not because of anything you've done.
yeah.
And it wasn't until after, Jesus gave that love that Zacchaeus became a changed person
That's good.
and gave, back to the people and repented of his sins. And so we were talking about that in gKids, and that was when 10 kids got saved.
That's
Like 10
amazing.
kids because of
That's
that
wild.
story.
Yeah,
That's
And it
it's
was
amazing.
incredible.
nothing that like, that I did. It was just because they realized, wow, I don't have to do anything to earn Jesus' love for me.
Yeah,
Like I don't have to do anything.
yeah.
And I can become changed, but not like in my own power.
That's great.
And so I just think it's really awesome.
Well, and I wasn't necessarily going to go to this point, but there's so many statistics, and you may know them better than me, but there's so many statistics that children so many people get saved before the age of 18, and
Mhm.
so that's why we value and believe in our gKids ministry and
Yeah.
Generation Youth, because we're not looking for children to be in and around the church and kind of know who God is. Like we want them to know God. We want them to have a relationship with God. We want them to accept him as their Lord and Savior from a very early age, when they recognize who he is and who they are, and make him the Lord of their life,
Yeah.
so that they can begin that journey with him and not wait until they're 18 or 25 or 35 or 40. There are definitely
Yeah.
those stories, but that's the minority. So many of a large percentage of the people that get saved, they do so as young people, whether
Yeah.
that's children or students. And so I'm so thankful that on a regular basis, well, every single week, every single gathering, we're presenting the gospel in some form and teaching them about faith and Jesus, but that they're having the opportunity to respond. My favorite story, I said this Sunday in service when I was retelling that these 10 kids made that decision, is that, and you can tell this, but like they had to skip a game to tell you that
Yeah.
they had been saved.
Mhm.
Tell that a little bit.
Yeah, so I was like, I never want it to be a manipulation for kids
Yeah,
because they can't process that.
sure.
So I don't want it to be an emotional manipulation, and I don't want them to all just be like, "Oh, me,"
Yeah,
because
yeah,
sometimes when they feel like they're accepting something, they're like, "I want something,"
yeah, right.
And so we actually played a game before I even had a salvation call. So we played a game after the Zacchaeus story, and it was a gift that they passed around. And it was the gift of salvation. And when it was like musical chairs, and when they opened the gift, it was a bunch of crosses, and every kid got a cross. And I told them before we played the game, I said, I'm going to invite some of you that have never asked Jesus to be with you and to love you, to be a part of your life. I'm going to ask you if you want to do that today, but I want you to think about it first. And that was the most somber game I've ever experienced in kids. I
Wow,
mean, not a kid talked, literally.
wow.
Yeah.
They were just passing the gift. All of them were very obviously thinking. And when the game ended, they all had their little crosses that they were holding on to. I told them, I was like, some of you are gonna go turn your crosses into necklaces or bracelets or whatever, and you're gonna play a little game over here. I was like, but some of you, you feel like Jesus is calling you to a relationship with him, and he wants you to be like him. He wants you to open up, your life to him. He wants to come make his home in you. And I was like, and if that's you, like, this is your time. And so
That's
we
great.
prayed, and like 10 kids, actually 11 kids raised their hands. And I said, okay, if that's you, I was like, you're going to come with me over here, and everyone else is going to go play the game. And they came over, this one little girl, I was talking, I was explaining it to them, what decision they had made and all the things. And this one little girl all of a sudden goes, oh, wait, I've already been baptized. Hold on. And so she
She
left.
went back
Yeah.
to the
I've
But
got
then
a
we had
necklace to
10
make.
left.
That's
Yeah. It
fantastic.
was really sweet. It was
That
a
is
sweet
really,
moment.
really
That's
sweet.
incredible.
Well, I'm thankful for you and our gKids team. Sunday after church, this past Sunday, you had almost 50 people that
Yeah.
came and
Yeah.
stayed for a lunch for training and just fellowship together. And I'm thankful for the team that serves in our gKids
I'm
ministry and
so
your
grateful for
leadership,
them.
and just your investment in the next generation here. So I am
Thank
thankful
you.
for that. Those are things kind of that have happened over the last few weeks. We've got some things that are coming up. I want to jump way ahead in the calendar to the fall.
Mhm.
Hmm.
I said you're a communications director, but you also oversee local and global missions. We're taking a missions trip this September.
Yep.
We're going back to Casa
Oh,
Shalom in
yeah.
Oh,
Guatemala,
finally.
So
to the
excited.
orphanage there. Josh and Jessica Hanson, the directors. Just talk a little bit about that trip, just briefly. I know most everybody that's going is already signed up and that kind of thing, but just
Mhm.
talk a little bit about that trip, what we're going to do in the time there during that missions trip.
Yeah, it's been a couple years since we've gotten to go down there. We were doing it at kind of pre-COVID, yearly, an
Yeah,
annual trip. Whether it was a group going down just to love on kids, and sometimes we sent a specialized group to rebuild a roof or whatever the case may be. So we just really I felt that it was important this year to make that trip happen again. So I got with Josh and Jessica, and we found a date. We're going to do it during fall break later this fall, so that the students can go as well. And we've got a group. We did registrations, and we've got a fantastic group. I think 12 is the most we've taken, and we
yeah.
have 22going
Praise the Lord.
in the fall. And
That's
I'm
awesome.
so excited. It's such a good group, and so we're gonna meet as a group over the next few months just to kind of do some team building stuff and kind of prepare our hearts for that trip. But once we go down in the fall, our goal while we're there is just to do some projects around the campus to kind of
Yeah,
spruce up, just the things that they have there, some painting and organization and things like that. But then when the kids get home from school, we're just gonna have dinner with them and do a devotion. And each of the houses each night, they're split up based on age and gender. So we're gonna go into those houses each night and do some worship and some devotion with those kids. And we're gonna have the opportunity to team up with another ministry that is outside of the orphanage in the city that distributes like hygiene and activity bags to the kids that are there. So we're going to partner with them and put those bags together and help those get distributed. So we're excited.
that's great.
It's going to be a good time, and I'm really praying for God to move not only there at the orphanage, but also just through the hearts of our team that are going, and
That's
everybody's
great.
really excited. So it's going to be good.
That's awesome.
So
And
excited.
One of the things that we do to raise money for our missions efforts is our legacy golf tournament.
Yep.
We do that in the summer. That's June the 30th this year.
Yep. Friday, June the
Yeah,
30th.
so June the 30th. So if you're a golfer or you're a business owner or an employee of a business that could help sponsor that, all the proceeds of that, once we cover the cost of the actual golf tournament, all the money that's raised goes to our Legacy Maker efforts, which are local and global partnerships. And
Mhm.
so Garrett does a great job just leading that effort with some other folks that have a heart for it. So I'm thankful for that. Just quickly, I just want to hit one or two more things here, but we've got Easter coming up. We're
Yeah.
talking about Journey to the Cross.
Yeah.
We're preparing for Easter.
Yeah.
So we've got Good Friday, April the 7th,
Hmm.
7 o'clock. Come to the table is the name of our event. We do every Good Friday, and I'm excited about that night. It's a really not somber night, but a reflective night. It's an opportunity for us to think about the cross and think about the sacrifice of Christ, and really to tangibly kind of hold some things in our hand, kind of like the cross that you were talking about
Yeah.
with the kids, but something in our hands that help remind us of the various components of the story and the events of those hours of Jesus's arrest and eventually, pointing towards his death. And then on Easter Sunday, April the 9th, that's the end of spring break.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I said Sunday, and I'm challenging if you're a part of our church family and you've already got spring break plans, like just go ahead and cancel that last day and come back early, be here for Easter. It's going to be a great day. But we're going to have our first on-site sunrise service. We've never done that on-site. We've
Oh,
had some
yeah.
that we were part of in the community, but 7 a.m. here. I'm calling it the lawn.
I think
I
I
think
like
it's
I
going
like
to
the
stick.
lawn.
I think it's
the
going to
lawn.
stick.
Yeah.
But out on the lawn here in front of the building, 7 a.m. sunrise service for Easter, and then we'll have our 9 and 10:30 identical services in the worship center for Easter Sunday.
Mhm.
Our theme this year for Easter is Go and Tell, and I'm really, really excited. I was working on it a little bit
Yeah.
yesterday, and I'm excited about the day. So anyway, that's all of this between the Sundays. I'm thankful that you've been a part of this. Thank you, Pastor Madeline,
Yeah.
and to
Yeah.
Garrett. And until next time, we'll see you. God
See ya.
bless.
See ya.